Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to today's Journal Club. This is one of the topics and one of the things which is very close to most of the people who are working on bacteriology and dealing with AMR and antimicrobial stewardship. The combination of Septa-AV, Avibactam and Aztreonam, how to use it, and the commonly implemented disk energy protocols that we are using nowadays, are they the conclusive evidence of treatment success? So today's journal club is centered around this particular topic, and I'll be taking two articles on that, and there will be some ancillary articles which were in the cross references of these two publications that also I'll discuss side by side. And then there are certain interesting ideas and innovations that we have come across in our lab also. We'll try to share that with you also around for this, because this is an evolving topic, and CLSI has also now come up with a protocol to determine the MICs. Not actually the MICs, but certain breakpoints above or below which, if the growth is there, then it is considered to be susceptible or resistant. So is Septa-AV really, along with Aztreonam, really the wonder drug? Because as literature has shown us that Ceftazidime in the Septa-AV and Aztreonam is practically useless. The Ceftazidime component per se is useless for NDM producers, but as such, Septa-AV is a great drug primarily for your KPCs and your serine carbonamases like KPCs, the OXAs and the AMC-beta-lactamases. And it also acts against Pseudomonas if it is resistant to the first line agent. So Septa-AV per se on its own does not act on the metallo-beta-lactamases, and this is a very interesting table that can be used on the bench side for directing the treatment of the patients. So if you look at this, if you take this together, we see that NBLs can be treated with either cefiderocol or Septa-Avibactam and Aztreonam. However, now there is an evolution of the PPP3 kind of proteins which have reduced the binding of the Aztreonam also, and cefiderocol. So this cefiderocol may not be the long-term solution for MBLs. Similarly, Septa-AV can also be used for Stenotrophomonas maltophilia as well. So this is a good combination, but we need to understand how this actually works. So if we see that we have got the carbapenem resistant Enterobacterialis on the left side, so this small animation that I've tried to make, just to tell you how this really works. And then we have an array of all these different antibiotics. So the carbapenem resistant Enterobacterialis, they produce certain enzymes, which are either the MBLs, which will take care of, or they will devour the third generation cephalosporins, the BL-BLA combinations, and the carbapenems. Then we have the extended spectrum beta-lactamases, which destroy the third generation cephalosporins and Aztreonam. Then we have the oxacillinases that will take care of, they are quite similar to your ESBLs only, but they'll take care of third generation cephalosporins and at times imipenem also. So oxa have got a more affiliation for imipenem rather than meropenem as such, and they may or they may not destroy Aztreonam. And then of course we have the AMC-beta-lactamases that can counter all of them if possible. But one interesting thing is that for MBL, Aztreonam is not the substrate. That's the most important thing that is centric to this particular combination. So MBLs will take care of these enzymes, third generation cephalosporins will be destroyed by ESBLs, and the other antibiotics by OXAs and AMC-beta-lactamases. Then what happens? The Avibactam that comes over here that destroys these three serine beta-lactamases, that's the ESBLs, OXAs and AMCs. And therefore, the effect of these three enzymes gets neutralized, which leaves us only with the MBL for which we have got our Aztreonam. So the bacteria have got only MBL producing capability left now that the other enzymes are neutralized by Avibactam. So the Aztreonam, it acts upon the bacteria and it kills and destroys the bacteria. So therefore the actual end activity is done by Aztreonam and not by Avibactam and not by Ceftazidime. So Ceftazidime practically has got no role because Ceftazidime is the substrate for the MBLs. So Ceftazidime will not destroy the MBLs. So the last enzyme that we are left with are MBLs, and the MBLs get destroyed by Aztreonam that will take care of the bacteria. So ultimately Ceftazidime actually is not needed, and that is the reason why Pfizer is now developing this new drug, the Aztreonam Avibactam. So if you look at this, one of the papers, this is the ancillary publication. This is not the main paper of the journal club. This is one of the ancillary papers which assess the in vitro impact of ceftazidime on the Aztreonam Avibactam susceptibility testing for highly resistant MBL producing Enterobacterales. So if you are using a combination of Aztreonam Avibactam, so does addition of ceftazidime or removal of ceftazidime has any kind of effect on that? So in this particular paper, they did a typical checkerboard analysis in which, if you see on this side, it's a 12 by 8 typical broth microdilution plate. In the first column, they have added your Aztreonam Avibactam in increasing concentration from 0.5 to 64, and the same concentration runs from number B from this one till the ninth one. So the 8 by 8 checkerboard, we have got 0.5 to 64 Aztreonam Avibactam over here and 0.5 to 64 ceftazidime over here. So if we get to see the growth, we get to see over here because that's the lowest concentration, and no growth over here because that's the highest concentration of 64 by 64. So that's a checkerboard that they did for this thing, and then on separate wells they did the MICs for Septa-AV, Aztreonam and ceftazidime over here, and then they found in this particular paper that no matter keep on adding how much of ceftazidime over here, the MICs will remain constant for Aztreonam Avibactam. So in conclusion, they found that ceftazidime in the combination Septa-AV, Avibactam and Aztreonam did not affect the in vivo activity of Aztreonam Avibactam. So basically the use of ceftazidime is totally of no use in this particular combination of three drugs, Septa-AV, Avibactam and Aztreonam. So this is a joke that I use, that ceftazidime thinks that it is the drug that I think, but it's not. So that's why they think that Begani ki Shadi mein Abdullah Diwana, because he thinks that he is the one who's killing, but the actual killing is done by the Aztreonam and not ceftazidime. So what is the in vivo measure of the action of an antimicrobial? So we know that the MIC is one of the most important parameters. Not just the MIC, the breakpoint to MIC quotient is even a better and a more short way of determining the efficacy of the antibiotic at that particular site. So it is a pharmacodynamic parameter which is formed as the you can say the denominator in all our PK/PD calculations. And why do we need? What do we do instead of getting the MICs? We do a synergy testing, like what is shown over here in particular in this photograph. This is one that has been now recommended by the ICMR protocol, and the ICMR protocol has just incorporated in the subsequent publications by Khan et al., when they have discussed and they have 4 different methods for the detection of the synergy between Septa-AV and Aztreonam also. So positive synergy testing is not an absolute indication of the fall in the MICs of Septa-AV or Aztreonam. So basically, even if you get a synergy, that is not conclusive to say whether there is going to be in vivo response or not. So it is a helpful guidance, but it is not conclusive, and of course it is always marred by a lot of subjectivity also. What kind of subjectivity? Like for example, in this, if we say that if the MIC somewhere over here maybe at 2 or something, so we don't know whether it is really producing the synergy, will produce the efficacy or not. So this is the kind of panel that we use at our institute, where we add meropenem plain and meropenem along with EDTA. Then we put up Septa-AV disc along with Aztreonam disc placed 15 millimeters apart center to center. And then on the second plate, we have a plain EDTA disc, which is over here. This is actually EDTA along with meropenem and EDTA. And then we have a remodified Hodge test put up on this side. So there is a panel of the entire CLSI panel that we are putting up on a daily basis for all the carbapenem resistant Enterobacterales to determine whether it's a zinc dependent or a bivalent cation dependent metallo-beta lactamase or not. So this is another keyhole synergy that you see over here. There is synergy, but over here if you see the MIC somewhere around 12. So whether the Aztreonam will really raise or decrease the MIC or not, we don't know. So there is a lot of subjectivity over here. Again, the same thing. This that is meropenem with EDTA, that is plain. This is meropenem with EDTA, that is plain meropenem. And same thing here also. We cannot say that if this Aztreonam has really decreased the MICs or not. So it is a good indicator. Yes, it is, but it is subjective. Interpretation is subjective. Synergy is there, but that synergy whether can be extrapolated to treatment success is not. We don't know about. So these are different tests that we can do, and we have got different pictures we get through this. So this is the actual first journal that I will be discussing, a simple disk stacking plus micro elution method for rapid detection of the synergistic effect of aztreonam and Septa-AV against MBL producing Enterobacterales. So again, this paper is not talking about the decrease in the MICs, it is still talking about the synergistic effects. So this is a paper that was published recently in March in 2023 from China, and this paper basic purpose was to establish a simple disk stacking plus micro elution method that can routinely be performed to rapidly detect the synergy between aztreonam and Septa-AV also. So the purpose was that they have checked, they have developed, they have improved upon a disk stacking method that was used earlier. So this is a modification of that disk stacking method. I'll talk about that also. So DSE means the disk stacking micro elution method, which it was used for the evaluation of the synergy. Then of course the purpose was to have a turnaround time of 8 hours only. So they kept an incubation of 8 hours, and they saw the increase in the zone diameter between the plain aztreonam and Septa-AV aztreonam discs. So what they've done, they have taken characterized strains, and they have done the checkerboard analysis, which is the reference method, which is basically a combination of the Broth and Elution methods, which I just showed you in the previous slides. And they did the synergistic effect between aztreonam and Septa-AV against the MBL carbapenem resistant Enterobacterales. They did not delve, or they did not include any of the Pseudomonas isolates or Stenotrophomonas isolates, and they took 32 MBL producing isolates from multiple centers, and then their main interest was to decrease the turnaround time for detection to as low as 8 hours only. So as mentioned previously, the carbapenem resistance in Enterobacterales is primarily by the hydrolysis of the carbapenems. Unlike what we see in Pseudomonas, it is less of carbapenems production and more of mutations in the OPRD or the efflux pump mechanisms. The enzymes which are mediating the carbapenem resistance are usually the metallo-beta-lactamases, which are the divalent cation-dependent beta-lactamases, the Klebsiella pneumoniae carbapenemases, the oxacillinases, and sometimes the hyperproduction of the AMC-beta-lactamase or the totally de-repressed AMC-beta-lactamases that can break down even ertapenem and meropenem also. Then Avibactam, it is a good inhibitor of the KPCs, OXAs and AMCs, but they do not inhibit the NDMs, WIMs and the IMPs. So Avibactam, like I said, it is good for all these enzymes, but it is not good for your the NDMs and the IMP VIM. Again, aztreonam, if it is pure, and we have seen pure MBL producing strains also, which are resistant to everything, but only susceptible to aztreonam. So these are the pure MBL producing strains are also there, but normally these are always they're carrying along with them other enzymes also, like your ESBLs and other OXAs also. So the decreased susceptibility to aztreonam, Avibactam among the MBL series observed and determined to be. Now this particular thing, now what I said about ceftazidime and also for this particular combination is that there is a small insertion into PPP3 that impacts the binding of the ATM, ceftazidime and other beta-lactams. So despite this being a good treatment option, there is still a possibility of the mutation in the PPP3 which may cause resistance toward this particular combination also. So I just told about this publication where Khan et al. They published, I think in JCM, if I'm not mistaken, they had evaluated 4 methods of the aztreonam Septa-AV combinations using they used 4 combinations using the Broth disk elution method, the disk stacking method. Now the Broth disk elution method is the one where we take a broth, we add the disk, and then we see the effect of the antibiotic on the combination of these 2 agents on the bacteria. The disk stacking method, in which 2 disks are kept on top of each other, and then the antibiotic, both of them, they get diffused into the medium, and they produce the inhibition of zone against the MBL. Strip stacking method is also another method. Now this strip stacking, what happens is you take 1 strip of the aztreonam and 1 strip of Septa-AV, you keep on top of each other on the same on the plate, and then the combination of both these gradients, it creates a decrease in the MICs also. and the strip crossing method. So if you notice, all these methods have been directly incorporated in the ICMR document which is available. All these 4 methods are present over there, of which these methods, the most accurate method was found to be the disc elution method, which I will be talking about later on in the second article. And they found a strip stacking method. This one, the disc stacking method, what they've used as the lowest performance over here. So, but then disc stacking method, this was the easiest method that was used. So this particular article which I am running right now, they thought of evaluating the disc stacking method, and they converted into a disc stacking plus micro elution method. So it is not just plain keeping discs on top of each other, they do a micro elution method also. So this was the original paper in 2021 from which the ICMR has incorporated the 4 different methods of the Septa-AV Aztreonam synergy testing also. Now what has it done is they've taken 32 isolates of MBL producing CREs, and they have done the identification by the MALDI using Brooker, and then they did the Broth microdilution test using the CLSI guidelines to determine the actual MICs of the ATM, Septa-AV, and the combination of both of them. So they have characterized the MIC, done the gold standard method, and then they have come on to the actual disc stacking plus micro elution disc method. Is that what they have done is? Basically they have taken the overnight strain and they have done this plating on the MHA plate. Then they have added 4 discs, 2 discs of Aztreonam and 2 discs of Septa-AV. So that means 2 discs Aztreonam, 2 discs Septa-AV. On one Aztreonam, on top of that they have added a Septa-AV disc, and one other Septa-AV disc. On top of that they have added the Aztreonam disc. And what they have done is, on top of that they have added 20 microliters of the, they have added 20 microliter of sterile solution or sterile saline they have added, so as to elute the Septa-AV on Aztreonam and then onto the MHA, and then on top of that they have added on this Aztreonam so that it can go down to Septa-AV and then onto the MHA plate. And then they have done the reading is done as per the CLSI method for the ATM, and for the Septa-AV Aztreonam they have done the reading as per the UCAST. Why they have done that, I am not so sure. I will have to go through that again. So this is the method that they have done. They have taken the 0.5 McFarland double T standard. They have done the plating on the MHA, and then they added ATM, two discs of ATM, 2 discs of Septa-AV, and 1 disc of Septa-AV on top of ATM, and 1 disc of ATM on top of the Septa-AV, and then on top of that they have added a sterile saline solution 20 microliter. That is basically 20 microliter as the holding capacity of that particular disc, so that it is able to elute or micro elute the Septa-AV on Aztreonam and Aztreonam onto Septa-AV in this case. So that micro elution, that's why the term micro elution has been used over here. And then, like if you see, they found this is plain Aztreonam, then Aztreonam plus Septa-AV. This is plain Septa-AV, then on top of the Aztreonam. So they found that there is a increase in the zone size, showing that there is a synergy in the presence of both the antibiotics. And this is the ATCC strain, just to confirm whether the quality control. So they have also, like I said, they have confirmed this their findings, the MIC finding with the checkerboard analysis, which I just showed you previously. And after doing the fractional inhibitory concentration index, they found that the use of this particular method is very useful and easy to do for the synergy testing for Septa-AV and Aztreonam. Coming on to the next study, this is a very interesting paper from CLSI also. So this is CLSI endorsed actually, because the name Romney Humphreys and Patricia Simner are there. So this is, if you see very carefully, the word multi-center evaluation of an MIC based Aztreonam and Septa-AV broth disc elution test. So they don't mention the term MIC anywhere. So this is not a MIC determination method, because in MIC you need a gradient of concentrations. In this case, they have not created a gradient of concentrations. So basically, this is a CLSI endorsed method, and next year is going to come out in the CLSI M34 document also, in M100 edition 34. So what are the current breakpoints as per CLSI? If you see for Enterobacterales, for Aztreonam we have got Aztreonam we got 4, 8 and 16. For Septa-AV we got 8 and 4. as susceptible, 16.4 as resistant, and Aztreonam Avibactam as 4. What is to be kept in mind over here is that the Avibactam component, most important to remember, is that the Avibactam component always need to remain a constant at 4 microgram per ml. So if you see carefully, in all these cases, despite the fact that this is 8, the other one, Avibactam is only 4, this 16.4, 4.4, so always the Avibactam component, because that's actually the BLI inhibitor, that remains constant throughout. So that is important. This is the important part that you must remember. What are the breakpoints which are existing right now? And accordingly, they have selected a concentration to determine whether it is going to be susceptible or resistant. So this particular method, what they have done is they have taken 30 microgram Aztreonam disc. So since this is by CLSI and multiple centers are involved, so they have done with all different makes of the antibiotics. They use oxoid, they use BD, they use thermo, and they use different media also, DIFCO, oxoid media they use. So basically disc concentrations are 30 microgram of the Aztreonam disc and 30-20 microgram of the Septa-AV disc. So Septa-AV disc they use by the Hardy Diagnostics. So they have used alone, they have used in combination, and the third one is a no disc or the growth control is there, which was added to 4 separate 5 ml of cation adjusted molybdenum broth tubes. So they have taken 4 tubes. In one tube they have added only Aztreonam, in one tube they have added only Septa-AV, in the third tube they have added both Septa-AV and Aztreonam discs together, and the fourth one is a growth control where no discs have been added. So the final concentration, because this is 5 ml of cation adjusted molybdenum broth, the final concentration is 30 divided by 5, that is 6 for Aztreonam, 6 by 4. Again, this is 6 by 4. If you divide by 5, this is 6 by 4 for Septa-AV. So again, you see the Avibactam component is 4 microgram per ml. That is the important part to keep in mind. So the disc content of the broth ratio has been chosen in such a way so that the final concentration either reaches 6 and 6 by 4. 6 is Aztreonam, 6 is Septa-AV, 4 is Avibactam. So this particular, if you see, again go back to this table, if you see this particular concentration, it is lying somewhere over here. For intrabacterialis, for Aztreonam also, for Septa-AV also, so it is lying close somewhere in and around the breakpoint, breakpoints of the susceptible breakpoints for Septa-AV, Aztreonam. So basically, this particular method is very similar to our collagen broth disc elution method, which we all have been doing very commonly. But in CBDE, what we do is we take 10 ml of the cation adjusted molybdenum broth. In this case, we are taking 5 over here. So in that case, in 10 ml, we are adding 50 microliter of the inoculum. This is 5 ml, so we are adding 25 microliter of the inoculum is added. And similarly, we inoculate 0.5 McFarland turbidity standard, and we take 25 microliters in these 5 ml saline tubes, which are 4 in numbers. One is plain Aztreonam, one is plain Septa-AV, one is Aztreonam plus Septa-AV, and the fourth is growth control. And the incubation is done for around 16 to 20 hours for Enterobacterales, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and myroids, and 20 to 24 hours for Stenotrophoras multifolium. And then the end concentration that we see is that we have to detect whether after the overnight incubation the tubes are assessed for no growth, that is susceptible, or the growth as not susceptible at this concentration. So we have one single fixed concentration, there is no concentration gradient. So this is not a MIC determination method. So this is what it looks like. This particular spray, this is the growth control, this is plain Aztreonam, this is Septa-AV, this is Septa-AV plus Aztreonam. So you can see in this case that you can see there are 2 discs over there. So there is no growth over here. This is showing synergy at, or there is susceptibility at 6, 6 and 4 microgram per ml concentration of Aztreonam, Septa-AV. Now comes the interesting part. This is the, I would say this is the innovation I was thinking after I read this paper, and we can further take this study. Now this study, on the basis of this previous study, this method is going to come in the M100 document this next year, as we discussed in our previous talk also. So this, can we take the breakpoints lower? Now the breakpoints are at 6, 6 and 4, above which it is resistant, below which is there is no growth. So can we take the breakpoints lower for the CLSI broth disc elution test and actually make it a broth macro broth disk elution dilution test. So now just think of this very carefully. Macro because we're using bigger tubes. You're not using the microtiter plates. So macro broth disk elution. So again we'll be using discs which will be eluting into the cation resistant molten broth, and we'll be creating a gradient by creating a dilution. So the answer is yes, we can. So this is what I came up in the morning, is this thing. Now these are different set of tubes. The last tube is 10 ml tube. These are all 5 ml tubes, in which you can see over here, this is denoting 5 ml, this is denoting half, that is 2.5 ml. Now in 5 ml, if we are adding one, this is A's Aztreonam disc. If we are adding one Aztreonam disc, that of 30 microgram, it creates a concentration of 30 by 5 ml, that is 6 microgram per ml, right? In the next one, if I add this Septa-AV disc, that is 30-20 microgram, so it creates a concentration of 6 by 4, that is 30 by 5 is 6 and 20 by 5 is 4. So it's this 6 by 4, this 6 by 4 is a constant component, this we cannot change. Now the problem with this was very simple, because in Colson-Broth disk elution test, very simple, you just have to have 1 disc, 2 discs and 4 discs, finished. There is only one single component involved, and this is the growth control. So there is no problem in that. Problem comes over here when you got 3 different components, out of which one component has to be kept as a constant, which is the Avibactam. So what we can do is, we can go, now this has created a concentration of, when we add both of them together, so this 1 disc of Aztreonam, 1 disc of Septa-AV, so this creates a 6 by 4 concentration, which is the actual which is we used in this particular study, which I just mentioned by Romney Humphreys. Now on top of that, in place of this we add another Aztreonam disc. So we have 2 ATM discs and 1 Septa-AV disc. So in that case what happens? The concentration becomes 12, because this 6 plus another 6, that becomes 12 of Aztreonam and 6 and 4 of Septa-AV. Till this is also fine. Problem comes with the diluting it. Now you can increase the concentration by keep on adding more and more Aztreonams, but that is not the thing. We have to see how low can it go. So what can we do? What we do in this case now is, we take another tube of 2.5 ml of cation molten broth, in which we add our Septa-AV disc. So Septa-AV disc is a single disc in all the tubes. So there is 2.5 ml containing 1 disc of Septa-AV. Now on top of that, this is one thing, this is one thing. Both are Septa-AVs, 2.5, single disc. Now we create a lower concentration of Aztreonam. So how do we do using the plate, using the disc? We take same like this only, 5 ml of cation molten broth. On this we add 30 microgram of your Aztreonam disc. So this becomes 6 microgram per ml, out of which we take 2.5 ml and add in this tube. So what do we get over here? Instead of getting 6 by 6 by 4, we are getting 3 by 6 by 4. Similarly, if we take 10 ml of the tube over here and we add 1 disc over here, and we create a concentration of 3 microgram per ml, and then 2.5 ml is transferred in this tube, we get 1.5 by 6 by 4. So we have been able to create a gradient of 1.564, 364, 664, that was the original gradient created by this paper, and then going forward 1264. So in this case we are able to create we can actually find out the MIC in such cases if we are using this particular method. So I am just proposing a further study for this particular paper. We can do it in our setup also, and we can improve on this paper and maybe suggest to CLSI to use this method for the detection of MIC for the. So this is a macro broth disk elution dilution test. So again, macro broth means we are using tubes, we are eluting the disc, and it is a dilution method. So it's a macro broth disk elution dilution test. So we can name it something else also if we want to. So now coming on to the second innovation from our institute, that is similarly the VAST study. That is, again I am saying that this is again the copyright of our department. I am again still not calling the VAST study as a MIC determination study, because again it is not determining the MICs and it is not yet validated with the broth microdilution test or by the checkerboard analysis. The study is still under validation phase, and we solicit multi-center collaborations by our viewers, and we want to specially thank BioEnviro for the support for this. So this is a Vitek Aztreonam study which we had already, me and Dr. Dev have already discussed on this particular study. The protocol is that we have to establish a possible clinical efficacy of the synergistic action of Aztreonam with Septa-AV using the Vitek 407 cards which contain the Septa-AV antibiotic. And we can demonstrate the fall in the MIC of Septa-AV in the presence of Aztreonam for the treatment of possible NDA producing or the MBL producing Enterobacterales, for which we require, of course, we do have the Vitek instrument. Most of us, we have got the Vitek cards, the Vitek instrument, the densitometer, the vortex, and the Vitek pipettes are required. We need the GN card, at least one we require. If you have the ID with you, then it's not required. We require at least two, or you can do with one card also. If there is too much of shortage, you can do one card also. And then, of course, the Aztreonam disc of 30 micrograms required. And we will be screening for meropenem and ertapenem resistant Enterobacterales only. This is not being used so far for Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Acinetobacter baumannii. Again, Acinetobacter baumannii, Aztreonam is ineffective, so there is no point using it. And of course, the other glucose nilfometa GMPs. So in this particular protocol, that what we have designed is that we have dispensed 3 ml of the Vitek saline like we normally do in 3 tubes. One we label as the gram-negative ID tube. One is a plain simple 407 tube. One is the 407 ATM as per the Vitek protocol. So we put up, but in the 407 ATM tube, we put a disc of 30 microgram of the Aztreonam with sterile precautions, and we let the antibiotic elute for 30 to 60 minutes at room temperature, but not beyond 1 hour, because that will cause degradation of the antibiotic, because Aztreonam has got a very short T-half values. So this will help the Aztreonam to reach a concentration of 10 microgram per ml after the elution. Then there is vortex for 30 seconds, and then again the way we put up that Vitek test, we put up the Vitek test and inoculate the 0.5 to 0.6 mm palatability standard inoculum in the GNID tubes, the 407 tube and the 407 tube along with the ATM, and we put it in the load it in the machine. And as per the, so at the end what happens is the 407 card consists of Aztreonam in a concentration of 10 microgram per ml and represents the possible synergism or antagonism of Aztreonam with all the other antimicrobials in the 407 card. So 407 card, we may find some accidental synergy of Aztreonam with maybe with nettlemycin, with Aztreonam with maybe some other antibiotic we might find. So that's the secondary objective of the study that we are planning for this thing. So like for example, today only we had yesterday only we put up a card. We had a carbapenem resistant Enterobacterales. This is isolate number 275 from pyogenic samples. So this is a plain simple 407 card where we find everything is resistant. This is a 407 card. This has got Septa-AV Avibactam over here. As you can see, the MIC is more than 16 and it is resistant. And it's resistant to almost all the antimicrobials except for the tetracyclines. They are susceptible, and chloramphenicol and the polymyxins. Now after the addition of the Aztreonam over here, what happened was, this is the eluted Aztreonam plus 407 card. We have found that Septa-AV MIC has gone to less than 0.12 after the addition of the Aztreonam in this particular card. So this is also a very interesting protocol that one can follow, and we are in the process of validating it. We have got some interesting data that we might publish as early as possible also. So coming on to the last and the interesting part is the antibiotic posology of Aztreonam and Septa-AV combination. How to give this antibiotic properly? So as I said, Septa-AV and Avibactam, this particular drug has got a T-half life of 2.76 to 3.27 hours. The Aztreonam has got a shorter T-half of 1.7 hours only. Therefore, both of them these time-dependent antibiotics, so we have to give it as slow infusion, but not so slow so as to cause the degradation of the antibiotic. But as the T-half is less for both and even lesser for Aztreonam, we got two options. In this case, we don't infuse for 3 hours like we normally do for most of the beta-lactam drugs. In this case, we infuse for 2 hours, not 3 hours. So if it is single lumen catheter, we go in for 2.5 grams Septa-AV plus 2 gram Aztreonam every 8 hourly over 2 hours given in the same vial. Over 2 hours we have to infuse. If we have got a double lumen catheter, in that case we can give both of them separately but at the same time. That is 2.5 gram of Septa-AV every 8 hourly over 2 to 3 hours, and and 2 grams of aztreonam every 6 hourly. That means 4 times a day over 2 hours, just to be given. So the take-home message for after this particular journal club is that the synergy is inconclusive of the in vivo efficacy of Septa-AV aztreonam. The CLSI method, which I mentioned by the publication by Romney Humphreys et al., that is going to come up in the 34th edition of our CLSI 100 next year, most likely. But the breakpoints are only set as 6, 6, and 4. And what I just mentioned over here, we can further enhance and improve on the study by creating the gradients. The CLSI Broth disk elution method does not give the MIC value, so it will just give you less than this or more than this. That's it. It does not, but they have set a breakpoint so as to include most of the Pseudomonas and the Enterobacteriales in the susceptible breakpoint MICs. So that is one good thing that they've done. Then the establishment of MBL production by CRE testing panels have to be done as in all the labs to substantiate your Septa-AV synergy. So if you do have a definite MBL producer where you have a plain meropenem, the moment you have an EDTA, it increases the zone, or there is synergism between EDTA and the carbapenems, or any of these tests that you can do for a CRE panel testing. So that will improve upon give validity to your Septa-AV synergy also. Again, mentioning that VAST protocol is an Ames protocol, and saying the macro broth disk elution dilution test is also an Ames MG protocol. And we would like to solicit any kind of contribution from the viewers. Thank you once again. Last time when we had this presentation, we had 822 subscribers, but today we have got 937 subscribers, so almost 100 number have increased in the last presentation. Thank you so much. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on our YouTube channel. Thank you.